As men move beyond the age of 50, one of the most important yet rarely discussed changes happening inside the body is the gradual decline in nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is not a hormone, not a vitamin, and not a stimulant. It is a signaling molecule produced by the inner lining of blood vessels, known as the endothelium. Its primary role is to tell blood vessels when to relax and widen so that blood can flow freely. This function becomes increasingly critical with age because nearly every organ system depends on efficient circulation, especially the heart and the reproductive system. In younger men, nitric oxide is produced efficiently in response to physical activity, healthy nutrition, and normal hormonal signaling. Blood vessels remain flexible, responsive, and capable of delivering oxygen and nutrients where they are needed. However, after the age of 50, several biological processes begin to interfere with this system. The enzymes responsible for producing nitric oxide become less active. Oxidative stress increases, and the endothelium itself becomes less sensitive. As a result, even when the body sends the correct signals, blood vessels do not respond as effectively as they once did. This decline in nitric oxide has a direct and measurable effect on blood flow. When nitric oxide levels are low, blood vessels remain in a more constricted state. This increases resistance within the circulatory system, forcing the heart to work harder and reducing the amount of blood that reaches smaller vessels. The penis is particularly sensitive to these changes because erections depend almost entirely on rapid and sustained blood flow into specialized vascular tissue. Unlike muscles, erections do not rely on strength or effort, but on the ability of blood vessels to open fully and stay open long enough to maintain rigidity. As nitric oxide availability decreases, erections often become weaker, slower to develop, or harder to maintain. This is not a failure of desire or masculinity, but a mechanical limitation caused by reduced vascular signaling. Many men misinterpret this change as a hormonal issue or a psychological problem, when in reality it is a circulatory issue rooted in endothelial aging. This is why erectile difficulties often appear years before more serious cardiovascular symptoms. The penile arteries are smaller than coronary arteries, so they show signs of impaired blood flow earlier. Another factor accelerating nitric oxide decline with age is increased inflammation and oxidative stress. Over time, the body accumulates more free radicals, unstable molecules that damage cells and neutralize nitric oxide before it can do its job. Lifestyle factors such as poor sleep, low physical activity, excess sugar intake, and chronic stress further worsen this process. Even men who feel generally healthy may still experience reduced nitric oxide because these changes occur silently and gradually. Hormonal shifts also play a role. Testosterone supports nitric oxide production by stimulating the enzymes involved in its synthesis. After 50, testosterone levels naturally decline, reducing this supportive effect. The result is a compounded problem: fewer raw materials, weaker signaling, and reduced responsiveness of blood vessels. This combination makes it increasingly difficult for the body to achieve the same level of blood flow it once could with ease. The importance of nitric oxide goes far beyond sexual function. Adequate nitric oxide helps regulate blood pressure, prevents abnormal clot formation, supports brain circulation, and improves oxygen delivery to muscles. When nitric oxide levels drop, fatigue increases, exercise tolerance decreases, and recovery slows. Many men notice these changes without understanding that they all share a common vascular origin. Erectile strength, in this context, becomes a visible indicator of overall circulatory health rather than an isolated issue. What makes nitric oxide decline particularly important is that it is not an inevitable or irreversible process. While aging reduces baseline production, lifestyle and nutritional strategies can support and partially restore nitric oxide pathways. Physical activity, especially walking and resistance training, mechanically stimulates nitric oxide release. Certain nutrients provide the building blocks needed for its synthesis, while antioxidants help protect it from destruction. These interventions work by supporting the body's natural systems rather than overriding them. Understanding the role of nitric oxide reframes erectile health in an educational and empowering way. Instead of focusing on symptoms alone, it shifts attention to the underlying biology that controls blood flow. Strong erections are not simply a matter of youth, they are a reflection of vascular efficiency and endothelial health. When nitric oxide production is supported, blood vessels regain flexibility, circulation improves, and erectile strength often follows naturally. In men over 50, paying attention to nitric oxide is not about performance enhancement, but about maintaining physiological function. It connects sexual health to heart health, energy levels, and longevity. By recognizing how aging affects nitric oxide production and how that decline influences blood flow, men gain a clearer understanding of their bodies and a more realistic path toward preserving strength, confidence, and overall vitality as they age. Plain water plays a vital role in human health, but its function is often misunderstood, especially when it comes to circulation and vascular performance. Water is essential for maintaining blood volume, regulating body temperature, supporting digestion, and allowing basic cellular processes to occur. Proper hydration prevents blood from becoming too thick and helps nutrients move through the bloodstream efficiently. However, hydration alone does not actively improve the function of blood vessels or stimulate the biological mechanisms responsible for optimal blood flow. This distinction becomes increasingly important with age, particularly after 50, when vascular efficiency naturally declines. Nitric oxide production is a biochemical process, not a hydration process. While water creates the environment in which blood circulates, nitric oxide is produced inside the endothelial cells that line blood vessels. These cells require specific raw materials and signals to generate nitric oxide. Without those materials, the presence of water alone does little more than maintain baseline circulation. In other words, water keeps the system running, but it does not upgrade or repair the system. As men age, endothelial cells become less responsive and less productive. The enzymes responsible for converting amino acids and dietary nitrates into nitric oxide slow down, and oxidative stress interferes with signaling pathways. Drinking more plain water does not correct these changes because water does not provide the substrates needed for nitric oxide synthesis, nor does it protect nitric oxide from being broken down once it is produced. This is why many well-hydrated men still experience poor circulation, cold extremities, reduced exercise tolerance, or erectile weakness. Blood vessels are dynamic structures. They constantly respond to chemical signals that tell them when to relax and when to constrict. Nitric oxide is the primary signal for relaxation. For this signal to be generated, the body relies on nutrients such as specific amino acids, plant-based nitrates, minerals, and antioxidants. These compounds directly participate in nitric oxide pathways at the cellular level. Without them, blood vessels remain more rigid, regardless of hydration status. Another limitation of relying solely on water is that aging blood vessels often suffer from reduced elasticity. Hydration does not restore elasticity. It does not clean the endothelial surface, reduce oxidative damage, or improve enzyme activity. These functions depend on nutrition and metabolic support. Think of water as oil in an engine. It prevents damage from dryness, but it does not repair worn parts or improve performance. Vascular health requires more than lubrication. It requires maintenance at the molecular level. Oxidative stress further highlights this issue. As men age, free radicals increase and neutralize nitric oxide before it can exert its effects. Plain water has no antioxidant capacity. It cannot protect nitric oxide from destruction or improve the balance between oxidative damage and repair. Without antioxidants from diet or targeted hydration strategies, nitric oxide remains short-lived and ineffective, even if some is produced. There is also a misconception that drinking excessive amounts of water can flush the system and improve circulation. In reality, overhydration without adequate electrolytes can dilute essential minerals like sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which are critical for vascular tone and nerve signaling. Blood vessels rely on proper mineral balance to respond to nitric oxide. Without these minerals, the relaxation response becomes weaker and less coordinated. From a sexual health perspective, this misunderstanding is common. Many men believe dehydration is the main reason for erectile difficulty and attempt to solve the problem by drinking more water. While dehydration can worsen blood flow, correcting hydration alone rarely restores erectile strength in men over 50. Erections depend on rapid nitric oxide release, smooth muscle relaxation, and sustained blood trapping within penile tissue. None of these processes are directly activated by water itself. This does not mean water is unimportant. It means water is foundational, not therapeutic. It creates the baseline conditions for circulation, but does not initiate vascular improvement. For nitric oxide production to increase, endothelial cells must receive the right chemical signals and building blocks. These come from nutrition and intelligent hydration, not hydration alone. Understanding this difference shifts the focus from quantity to quality. Instead of asking how much water to drink, the more relevant question becomes what the water is delivering to the cells. When hydration includes compounds that support nitric oxide synthesis and protect endothelial function, blood vessels respond more effectively. Circulation improves not because there is more fluid, but because the vessels themselves become more responsive and flexible. In aging men, this concept is especially important because vascular decline is gradual and often unnoticed until symptoms appear. Relying on plain water gives a false sense of security, as it addresses only the most basic requirement of circulation. True vascular support requires nutrients that work at the cellular and biochemical level to restore signaling efficiency. Hydration is necessary for life, but it is not sufficient for vascular optimization. Nitric oxide production depends on specific biological inputs that water alone cannot provide. Recognizing this helps men move beyond simplistic solutions and toward a more accurate understanding of how blood flow, erectile strength, and overall vascular health are truly maintained with age. As men age, supporting nitric oxide availability becomes less about forcing the body and more about supplying it with the correct natural inputs. One of the most effective and often overlooked strategies is enhancing what is consumed with water rather than relying on water alone. Certain natural additions can dramatically influence how efficiently the body produces and preserves nitric oxide, especially at the level of the endothelium, the thin cellular layer lining the blood vessels. This approach works not by stimulation, but by restoration of biological pathways that weaken over time. Dietary nitrates are among the most important natural contributors to nitric oxide production. These compounds are found naturally in specific plant foods and are converted inside the body through a well-established pathway into nitric oxide. Unlike synthetic agents, dietary nitrates work in harmony with human physiology. After consumption, they are absorbed into the bloodstream, concentrated in saliva, and then converted by oral bacteria into nitrites. These nitrites are further transformed into nitric oxide in the stomach and blood vessels. This pathway becomes increasingly valuable with age because it bypasses some of the enzymatic systems that decline over time. When dietary nitrates are consumed regularly, blood vessels become more responsive and capable of relaxing more fully. This improved relaxation lowers vascular resistance and allows blood to flow more freely. For erectile function, this means stronger and more sustainable blood inflow into penile tissue. For the heart and brain, it means reduced workload and improved oxygen delivery. Adding nitrate-rich components to water makes this process consistent and accessible, especially for individuals who struggle with dietary variety. Antioxidants play an equally critical role in nitric oxide availability. Producing nitric oxide is only half the equation. Preserving it is just as important. With aging, oxidative stress increases, leading to the rapid breakdown of nitric oxide before it can exert its effects. Free radicals bind to nitric oxide and render it inactive, shortening its lifespan dramatically. Antioxidants neutralize these free radicals, protecting nitric oxide and allowing it to function longer and more effectively. When antioxidants are included in hydration strategies, endothelial cells operate in a less hostile environment. This improves signaling efficiency and reduces inflammation within blood vessels. Over time, this protection helps restore endothelial sensitivity, meaning blood vessels respond more readily to nitric oxide signals. Improved responsiveness translates directly into better circulation, warmer extremities, improved exercise tolerance, and enhanced erectile firmness. Minerals are another essential yet frequently ignored component of vascular health. Magnesium, potassium, and other trace minerals influence smooth muscle relaxation, nerve signaling, and electrolyte balance. Blood vessels rely on these minerals to respond appropriately to nitric oxide. Without them, even adequate nitric oxide levels may fail to produce full vascular relaxation. Aging men are particularly vulnerable to mineral deficiencies due to reduced absorption, medication use, and dietary changes. Adding mineral support through hydration helps correct this imbalance. When minerals are present, smooth muscle cells within blood vessel walls relax more completely in response to nitric oxide. This results in wider vessel diameter and improved blood flow. In the context of erectile health, this allows the spongy tissue of the penis to fill more effectively and maintain pressure. In the broader circulatory system, it supports stable blood pressure and efficient nutrient delivery. Another benefit of natural additions to water is consistency. Unlike supplements taken sporadically, hydration occurs daily and multiple times per day. This creates repeated opportunities to support nitric oxide pathways gently and continuously. Small, regular inputs are often more effective than large, infrequent doses because endothelial function responds best to steady support rather than sudden spikes. This approach also aligns with how the body evolved to function. Human physiology is adapted to derive nitric oxide precursors and protectors from natural sources consumed throughout the day. Enhancing water with these elements mimics this pattern and avoids the stress placed on the body by artificial stimulation. Over time, this leads to cumulative improvements in vascular flexibility and responsiveness. Importantly, improving nitric oxide availability through natural additions does not force blood vessels to behave unnaturally. It restores their ability to respond to signals that already exist within the body. This distinction matters because forced dilation can strain the cardiovascular system, while supported dilation improves efficiency. Men often notice improvements not only in erectile strength, but also in energy levels, mental clarity, and physical endurance. From an educational standpoint, this strategy reframes hydration as a delivery system rather than a passive necessity. Water becomes a carrier of functional compounds that directly influence vascular biology. This shift is especially relevant after age 50, when the body benefits more from support than from compensation. Ultimately, certain natural additions to water enhance nitric oxide availability by addressing multiple limiting factors at once. Dietary nitrates increase production, antioxidants preserve function, and minerals ensure proper vascular response. Together, they create an internal environment where blood vessels can relax efficiently and reliably. Improved circulation is not the result of excess fluid, but of improved signaling. By understanding and applying this principle, men can support vascular health and erectile strength in a way that is safe, sustainable, and grounded in human biology. Improved nitric oxide levels have effects that extend far beyond sexual performance, because nitric oxide is a foundational regulator of vascular health throughout the entire body. While erections are often the most noticeable and immediate outcome of adequate nitric oxide availability, they are only one expression of a much larger circulatory system at work. Nitric oxide influences how efficiently blood moves, how oxygen is delivered, and how hard the heart must work to sustain everyday activity. When nitric oxide production improves, the benefits appear across multiple systems simultaneously. Erectile function is especially sensitive to nitric oxide because the penile arteries are small and require rapid, precise dilation to allow blood to fill erectile tissue. This sensitivity makes erections an early indicator of vascular health. When nitric oxide levels decline, erections weaken first, often years before more serious cardiovascular symptoms emerge. Conversely, when nitric oxide availability improves, erectile strength often returns alongside improvements in circulation elsewhere in the body. This relationship highlights an important truth: erectile health is not separate from heart health, but closely connected to it. The heart relies on nitric oxide to reduce vascular resistance and regulate blood pressure. When blood vessels can relax easily, the heart pumps against less resistance, reducing strain on cardiac muscle. Improved nitric oxide signaling allows arteries to remain flexible rather than stiff, supporting stable blood pressure and efficient circulation. Over time, this reduces wear on the cardiovascular system and supports long-term heart function. Men with healthier nitric oxide pathways often experience more consistent blood pressure readings and improved tolerance to physical exertion. Energy levels are also directly influenced by nitric oxide. Every cell in the body depends on oxygen to produce energy. Nitric oxide improves oxygen delivery by enhancing blood flow to muscles, organs, and the brain. When circulation improves, cells receive the oxygen and nutrients they need more efficiently, leading to better mitochondrial function and increased energy production. This is why men with improved nitric oxide levels often report feeling more alert, less fatigued, and more capable of sustained activity throughout the day. Endurance is another area where nitric oxide plays a critical role. During physical activity, muscles require increased blood flow to meet rising oxygen demands. Nitric oxide enables blood vessels supplying active muscles to widen quickly and proportionally. This reduces early fatigue and allows muscles to work longer before exhaustion sets in. Improved nitric oxide availability also enhances removal of metabolic waste products, such as lactic acid, further supporting endurance and recovery. These effects are not limited to athletes, they influence daily activities like walking, climbing stairs, and maintaining posture. Brain health also benefits from adequate nitric oxide. The brain consumes a significant portion of the body's oxygen supply, and cerebral blood flow must be precisely regulated. Nitric oxide helps maintain consistent blood delivery to brain tissue, supporting concentration, memory, and mental clarity. Reduced nitric oxide levels have been associated with decreased cognitive performance and slower reaction times. When nitric oxide signaling improves, many men notice sharper focus and improved mental stamina, particularly during demanding tasks. The immune system and inflammatory response are also influenced by nitric oxide balance. Proper nitric oxide levels help regulate inflammation within blood vessels, preventing excessive immune activation that can damage endothelial cells. Chronic low-grade inflammation is common with aging and contributes to vascular stiffness. By supporting nitric oxide production, the body maintains a healthier inflammatory balance, which further preserves blood vessel integrity and function. The interconnected nature of these benefits explains why addressing nitric oxide pathways often produces broad improvements rather than isolated changes. When blood vessels function efficiently, every organ system benefits. Erections become stronger not because the reproductive system is treated separately, but because circulation improves everywhere. This systemic effect underscores the importance of viewing erectile function as a vascular event rather than a standalone condition. Another important aspect of nitric oxide is its role in recovery and resilience. After physical or mental stress, nitric oxide helps restore normal blood flow and supports tissue repair. Improved circulation accelerates nutrient delivery and waste removal, allowing the body to recover more quickly from exertion or injury. Over time, this enhances overall resilience and reduces the cumulative impact of daily stressors. Understanding erectile function as a reflection of vascular health also changes how men approach aging. Instead of seeing erectile changes as an inevitable decline or a problem limited to sexuality, they can be viewed as valuable feedback about the state of the cardiovascular system. Improvements in erectile strength often coincide with better heart function, increased energy, and improved physical capacity, reinforcing the idea that the body operates as an integrated whole. Improved nitric oxide levels support a virtuous cycle. Better circulation enhances physical activity, which further stimulates nitric oxide production. Increased activity improves metabolic health, reduces inflammation, and supports hormonal balance, all of which contribute to sustained vascular function. This cycle becomes increasingly important with age, when maintaining efficiency matters more than maximizing output. In this context, erections are not merely about performance, but about physiology. They represent the ability of blood vessels to respond, adapt, and deliver blood efficiently. When nitric oxide pathways are supported, this ability improves across the entire body. Heart health, energy, endurance, mental clarity, and sexual function all rise together, reflecting a single underlying improvement in vascular health rather than isolated benefits.